This morning, I need your help. Are you ready to give me a little bit of help this morning? I'm trying to find the fifth woman in Jesus' lineage. I've got her standing very still behind here. She's standing very still. And do you think you could help me find her today? I need your help. Do you think you can help me? Well, I'll introduce this series to you. We have been in the seed of Eve, and we're going to study these 5 women of Jesus' lineage who are just grace-filled. They're a part of Jesus' family tree. They're a part of Jesus' history and background, and so we've been studying these women. The seed of Eve really begins at the beginning, would you believe it? When God made heavens and earth, He spoke and there was light and there was sea to swim in and get dumped by waves and catch fish out of. There was land that you're so thankful you're back on after you land a plane, you know. There was trees that are beautiful to look at and taste and eat and see. And there were animals, thank goodness for pig. God did good on that day. And He created humanity. He created male and female in His image to co-rule under Him, to be fruitful and multiply. He blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. And so Adam and Eve are naked in the garden, unashamed, happy and joyous married couple. But Genesis 3 comes along and a spiritual creature dressed up as a serpent seeks to deceive Eve. And he says to her to reach out and to take of the fruit, the one tree that God said don't eat of that tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. And Eve did 3 things. She saw that the tree was beautiful. She desired the fruit for its wisdom. And so she reached out and took it. Do you remember back to those times when you were a kid and Mum had just baked cookies and you saw that they were beautiful, they were desirable to fill the tummy, so you reached out and took them. And as soon as they had this fruit, Eve gave it also to her husband Adam, who was standing right there. They were naked, but no longer unashamed. They became ashamed. And God sought them in the garden and said, "Where are you? What have you done?" And He gives this promise. Genesis 3:15. He says, I'm not going to pull back from you. I'm not going to destroy you. Instead, I'm going to send someone. I'll put enmity between this snake and the woman, and the offspring. There will come one offspring of the woman who will crush the serpent's head. And in the process, that heel will be bruised. And so God chose, instead of rejecting humanity, chose to bring one out of the many, so that through the one He may bless the many. And God worked through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the way down. And so we read of these women and men in Jesus' lineage. Here's number 1. Can you spot the woman with me here? The book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham, and Judah, the father of Perez, and Zerah by Tamar. There it is. We found woman number 1. Tamar, the barren widow. I don't know if you remember her story. She was a Canaanite woman, and she married Judah's son, but he was evil. And so God killed her husband. So she married his second son. And he was evil as well, so God killed him as well. And so she became this barren widow in her father's home, hopeless, helpless in that time. She wasn't an Israelite, she was an immigrant. She wasn't blessed being fruitful and multiplying, she was barren. And she got into a situation where she became pregnant by her father-in-law. And so she was going to be killed. But Judah, her father-in-law, understood what had happened and said, she is more righteous than I. She actually did what was right in that circumstance. Lady number 1, Tamar, the barren widow. Let's have a look if we can spot lady number 2. and Salmon, the father of Boaz, by Rahab. There she is. We've got her underlined. There she is. We found her. Lady number 2, Rahab the prostitute. She was living in Jericho. 2 spies come to spy out the land to see how they can destroy Jericho. And she has incredible faith, such a knowledge of God. And she hangs a scarlet thread out her window because the spies had promised, if you do this, God, though he will destroy the rest of the city, he will save you and all who are in your house. And so it was. And so Rahab the prostitute, not an Israelite, an immigrant, definitely not pure, the prostitute, gets sown into God's lineage. So we found lady number 1, we found lady number 2. Let's see if we can find lady number 3. Salmon, the father of Boaz, by Rahab. Boaz, the father of Obed, by, there she is, Ruth. Ruth the Moabite. Now, the story of Ruth is that there was an Israelite family who moved to Moab because there was such bad famine and gave their sons to local women. Now, here's what you need to know about Moabites. They're the worst. They're like Collingwood supporters. They're just as bad as it gets, right? No, it's too far. I understand. I'm sorry. It's Christmas. I should be nice, even to Collingwood supporters. The Moabites were just treated by the Israelites as the worst of the worst. They were so low down on the rung. And Ruth, this Moabite, is now married to an Israelite, and he dies. And so now she is a widow, and again, a barren widow. So she's not an Israelite, she's an immigrant. She's not blessed, she's not fruitful and multiplying. She's barren. And she's stuck with no hope in the world. So she goes with her mother-in-law back to Israel, and she becomes, the word is redeemed, by accepting to marry a man called Boaz. Her family line gets sown into, and she becomes the great-grandfather of David the king, the best of the kings of Israel. Are you starting to see some patterns going on here about the women? Let's see if we can find women number 5, because I've lost women number 4. Here we go. Jacob, the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. There we go. There's woman number 5. Mary isn't an immigrant. She is an Israelite. Do you see how the pattern's starting to be inverted here? She isn't a prostitute. She isn't on a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th husband. She's a virgin. And God picks Mary and says, to you, I will give a child. And her question is obviously, how's that going to happen? I've never known a man. And by the Holy Spirit, God sent his son through Mary. And we remember this Jesus, the one that we will call the seed of Eve, the one who came through his life, death, burial, and resurrection to crush the serpent, to crush sin, Satan, and death, all that is evil and unjust in our world. Jesus came and crushed that to offer to us life and salvation, hope and a future. But where's the 4th woman? Where is she? Matthew chapter 1, verses 6. David was the father of Solomon by Uriah. Now, I know you don't know, maybe you don't know Hebrew. Uriah's a bloke. Uriah the Hittite. He is an immigrant, not an Israelite. He's also a dude. How did David have Solomon by Uriah the Hittite? Well, actually, we know this story. David was meant to be out at war. It was the time of year where kings went out to fight. But instead of being where he was meant to be, instead of doing what he was meant to do, he was lounging on the roof of his palace. As some of us will be later on today, won't we? Just lounging back, something to drink. and he spots out over his city and kingdom a woman taking a bath. She was naked and not ashamed. And he saw that she was beautiful. He desired her, and so he reached out and took her for himself. Not his wife, another man's wife, Uriah the Hittite's wife. Some of you, as you have in Matthew chapter 1 verses 6, some of your translations will say, David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah. Guess what? In the Greek, by the wife of isn't there. See, the story of Bathsheba is the story of a woman whose name's been ripped from her. She becomes the invisible woman. Have you ever felt invisible? It's called high school, right? Or maybe you felt too visible in high school. Like, nobody notices you. Nobody listens to you. Does God even care? Is he even in the world? And Bathsheba, though she is the mother of Solomon, the wisest of the Israelite kings, her name has been blotted out. She becomes this invisible woman. And I'm here to tell you today, we found the fourth woman. Here she is. She's you. Let me make sure that I get that all the way around to everybody. She's you. Jesus was sent. The incarnation happened for the invisible ones. The incarnation happened. Jesus came to this world for those who feel invisible. For those who think, is God really there? Does God really care? Jesus is the answer to that question. He sees you. He knows the depths of your brokenness. He knows the depths of your sin. He knows the pain of your history. And he's saying to you, no matter where you come from, no matter what you've done, no matter what your history, these women in Jesus' lineage is saying, you are welcome back to the Father through the Son. Oh, I have a good message of hope for you this day. You're the invisible one. Oh, I'm not invisible. You should see all my social media platforms. How many of us will be remembered in 5 generations' time by people other than our family? Now, that's a really depressing thought for a Christmas, I'm sorry. How many of us will be remembered in 10 generations' time apart from our family? All of us become invisible eventually. But God sent his Son because he sees you. He knows your background. He knows your favorite color. He knows that song that you pretend like you don't like, but you actually do like. You know that Taylor Swift song? I know you. And he knows you. And so the incarnation, God coming to earth, happened for the invisible ones. All the ones that feel like God moves over you. Oh, God's only for the nice guys. God's only for those people. No, God came here to this earth for you. And he is inviting you this morning through the seed of Eve, through this lineage of grace-filled women in Jesus' lineage. He's inviting you to his table. He's inviting you to his home. And he's saying, will you eat with me? Will you do life with me? Will you be on the journey with me? Because I want to adopt you into my family. That's the message of Christmas. Jesus, the incarnation, came even for the invisible. So when you're talking to someone later on today and they said, oh, what did that preacher talk about? You can say, Jesus, the incarnation, came even for the invisible people. The nobodies are made somebody by Jesus. Would you pray with me? And then we're going to sing one final song together this morning. Lord, I think all of us have a moment where we feel invisible. We feel looked over. We feel disregarded. We ask the question, does God even care? Is God here? Does God know me? And the powerful declaration of Christmas is Jesus has come. God hears your cry. God knows your pain. God knows your story. And he sent his son to live for you, to die for you, to win you into relationship with him. And so no matter what your background, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, whether you relate more to Tamar the barren widow, or you relate more to Rahab the prostitute, or you relate more to Ruth the Moabite, everybody just thinks you're the worst, or you relate to Mary, the pure, the one of the right lineage, or you relate to Bathsheba, the invisible, Jesus came for you. And right here, even in this moment, he is knocking on the door of your heart and he's saying, if you let me into your life, I would love to do life with you. I'd love to be your master, your Lord, your Savior, your King, and your friend. I know your story. I know your pain. You are not invisible to me. And so as we sing our final song this morning, Joy to the World, oh, what joy we do proclaim to this world. For Christ has come. The seed of Eve, the snake crusher, has come. And he has defeated Satan, sin, and death. What joy we have in Jesus. We praise his name.